Hey y'all, it's Brushy Bert. I am here at beautiful Lake Manatee State Park, and I just want to talk today a little bit about alligator safety for hiking, and also just when you're in Florida, I guess their alligators are everywhere. So also there's a lot of people that may do stuff a little bit different. This is the way I do it. So, but here's some tips that'll help you keep safe. This is some of the things that I do. And the first thing I do is actually kind of assess the situation. You want to take a quick survey. I'm coming up to a lake, and I'm looking around the edges basically for any slide marks, any trails that might be going into the water, because this water edges is actually where they tend to hunt for the majority of the time. So they want to lay on this edge right here, looking towards the edge and looking towards the land, and that's where they'll wait and just until something walks past. So you definitely want to take a good look around to see if you're seeing any trails, see any laying on the edge. They also like the thick vegetation, so also you want to take a good look and make sure that none is actually laying around. Normally, that if I wasn't going on a swamp hike or I wasn't going into the water, I wouldn't stay next to the edge, because if you look at the attacks that have been in the US and in Florida, that a lot of the times that it's just somebody, they either walk their dog, which you never want to walk a dog, or they have a dog that's not a leash. You never walk a dog that's right next to the waters down here in Florida, because you may have went 100 times and there's no gator, but eventually in freshwater there's definitely going to be a gator sooner or later. And that is, you don't want to bring the food to them, and you don't want to look like food yourself. So if you're in the swamp, if you're going to Big Cypress, you'll be walking into the swamp, so you just want to make sure that you're definitely looking at the edge as you go in. And if the water's dark, then it's that you can't see, then you don't know what's in there. A longer stick is best to fill in front of you to make sure there's nothing in front of you before you step there. Or some people just prefer to use their hiking sticks. So you just want to make sure that you're not going too quick. If you go too quick, it's not enough time for them to get out of your way. It's also not enough time to get out of the cottonmouths, which like to lay on the trail and on the edge. But once they feel the vibration of the ground, they will be getting out of the way 90% of the time, you know. So you want to take a good look around. I do see a little bit of trail here. It could be a deer that came down and get a drink or something. I'm kind of looking at the edge. I don't see any slide marks, and there's a few gators right in here, but I don't see here in this particular area. I don't see them laying on the edge too. And you want to also look out if you see any mounds that are close to the water, in the water. Them are alligator nests. They're about 4 foot wide, and it's just a pile of like dried up weeds. So you want to make sure that you stay away from them, and also you want to stay away from any of the offsprings. The alligator will stay to its offspring for 2 years, compared to like an American crocodile will only, or once they lay their eggs, they'll basically leave. Once the hatchlings hatch, they'll leave the area and they're on their own. So the number one thing that I consider when I'm swamp hiking especially is the time that you're doing it. There is a lot of hikers that will just go full force. You know how much you can hike, and they plan it that way. But in the swamp, for a little bit of extra safety, that I choose to use another method. And one of it, well, first it's the time of the year. And when you're hiking through Big Cypress in the wintertime, that there's usually not much water in there if you get to the drought season, once you get to the drought season. So there's usually not too much water in there, but you don't really know until you're out into the middle. And when you get about Ivy Camp and Oak Hill, there's almost always going to be water in there. But in the wintertime, I find that it's really shallow. And when it's really shallow, you don't really see much alligator activity in that particular area. It's not saying they can't be, but you want to be prepared either way. And when I went through there the last time, I didn't see a single alligator in there, and just at the entrance. But when I went through the summer, instead of shin-high water, it was over waist-high, and there was a few alligators that was in the water at that time. You don't see, when the high water, you don't see as much bear, and you don't see, you don't see, you're lucky if you see a panther, but you don't see much bear in the high water, but you'll see the alligators. When the low waters, you'll have more bear activity out there at the campsites at night and things like that. The time of day is important too, because it's the morning time now, late morning, and as the sun's starting to get over towards above you, you can really see what's in the water. If you have dark water and you can't see in, you don't know what's in there. And during about noon and throughout a little before and after, that you can really see in the water the best. It's the best time if you have to go in the deep water, and you want to always try to avoid the deep waters when you're hiking through there, because that's where the alligators are going to be. Most of the times when you do see them, they're going to retreat. They're going to hide in the deeper waters. They feel safe, they feel secure under that deep water. So you never want to cross deep water unless you actually, you have to, So if you have a choice, just kind of scout it out and find the most shallow spot that you can see. If you do encounter one, one other point, during the day, in the mornings and in the evenings, you can barely see the reflection, or see anything but the reflection of the sky. So sometimes you might cross one area, but later on you might be in a deeper spot where you can't see nothing but the reflection of the sky. So I keep my my days short in Big Cypress, so you don't want to get caught in the areas, just in case that there's alligators in them areas. And I use 5 days to get across anyway. And then if you do happen to encounter one, you want to give them plenty of space, and at least 20 minimum. But if you can give them 60 feet or over, then that's even better. Most of the time, if you're getting too close, you might start hearing a warning call that it's a bellow, and the bellowing or growling is basically saying that you're too close, and they'll get physical if they have to. So you went far enough. I've had that in Big Cypress, and the only thing you can do is give them a wide girth and go around as far as you can. Try not to make any splash sounds at all. That splash sound will actually attract them over to where you're at. So you want to quietly kind of go around. One of the things that I see on the internet that is really kind of dangerous to be on there is as far as making the noises. There's a lot of websites that say to make noises to scare them off, and that's a yes and a no. If they're out on your dock or something, and if they're out on the dock and you're just trying to scare them off, then that's one thing. And when you're out into the middle of the swamp, though, that will actually provoke an alligator to bite you. And you don't want them coming over. You don't want to look like a threat to them, and you just want to kind of give them as much space. And I read on one of the websites that they want to use an air horn. The air horn will attract them. They don't really care about the loud noise, but they'll be attracted to it. And there's a big reason for not putting it in the water and doing it, which is what it recommended. And that's for the fact that it vibrates the water. And that's what the males do on the bellowing. And that vibration in the water is actually what lets there's another male in the area. And they'll sometimes do that if they hear fireworks, things like that. But they think there's a rival there, and they're going to go investigate that. So that's going to be a big no on that one. Also, filtering water and hiking from dusk till dawn is always going to be a bad idea, because that's the time when they're out looking for food. And normally they're just kind of laying on the bank in the daytime, just reserving their energy and just laying in the sun. Normally, if it's a smaller alligator too, that they're going to, as soon as they see you, they're going to disappear, you know, and they're either going to go in the deep water or take off swimming. A bigger one, you know, they get over 10 foot, they just seem to ignore you. But you know, you always just want to kind of keep an eye out on them. And these spots, like when you look over here, now this has been mowed a little bit, but this is a good spot. We actually see gators over here, and I don't see any today. But when they get into these tall weeds, they'll go away from right from the edge. So another thing that's really going to attract an alligator is a splashing noise. So when you're hiking, you want to be conscious of that. So when you're walking, sometimes you're just making a splash. If you see one, you might want to slow it down. You want to be as quiet as possible as you get away from that area. And you know, that splashing is going to sound like an injured animal to them. So the last thing I wanted to mention too is, if you happen to come across one, you're hiking in Big Cypress and you do find an alligator that's laying directly on the trail, which happens sometimes too. Happens in other swamps and everywhere down here in Florida. But when they do, you're going to have to kind of wait it out. And if it happens to be coming towards you, you know, they're going to follow that trail. And so you want to slowly, without making any noises, go and kind of get behind a tree or something until it passes. So if their heads are towards you, then you want to kind of keep an eye out and get into a spot far enough away from them until they pass. So I know they have a big issue with getting air rescued down in Big Cypress and other places down here in Florida. And a lot of the times, if you just wait for them to pass and just simply let them, you know, they're just going to get out of your way. If you do happen to get attacked, you start getting bit, the one thing you want to do is definitely is fight. You want to attack their eyeballs, their nose, fight with everything you got. The alligator survivors commonly say that they fought it enough just for it to let go. And most animals don't want to get injured. They're just looking for their food, and that's just their grocery shopping, but they don't want to get injured in the process. So you know, you just keep fighting and try to get as far away from that area as possible. And if you want any more details on this, there'll be a link below of one of the books our series of books that we have is the Florida Wilderness Safety Manuals. Volume 1 is the American alligator, if you want some in-depth how the behaviors are. And once you learn the behaviors, it's not too bad actually hiking with them. You can definitely hike more with confidence. So any questions, leave the comments below. And I guess see you later, alligator.